Hello sisters, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever it may be for you. I'm back with another video. Hopefully this is coming out a week after the other video that I posted, because the last video I posted, it took me a month from my birth video to the next video was a month long. So my name is Lily if you are new here, and I just had a baby. Well, not just, because he's almost 3 months. He will be 3 months by the time you see this video. I cannot believe how fast it's gone. But yeah, he is currently taking a nap. He has not been napping the best. He's still not to the point where he's on like a strict schedule, like 2 naps a day and then sleeping at night. Like, he's been sleeping really good throughout the night actually. Actually this week he started only waking up once in the middle of the night, which has been amazing. Yeah, his sleeping has been way better at night, but during the day he's just finding it hard to sleep long stretches. So today's video is all about breastfeeding. I am gonna grab my coffee. It's actually not coffee, it's mushroom coffee. This is gonna be a side tangent, but I don't even care. I don't drink caffeine, and I started drinking mushroom coffee. It's a little bit of a different taste. What I love about it is that it doesn't give you a crash, it doesn't make you feel jittery, and to me now it tastes good. I don't use creamer, I use raw milk and sugar. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I really like it, and it's really good for you. I use the Rise mushroom coffee. But anyway, if you wouldn't wanting to cut out caffeine, maybe this is your sign. I am just super passionate about, well, honestly, all things baby life, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and now breastfeeding. I was very, very, very nervous to breastfeed, not in the sense that like I was scared. It was more just I didn't know what to expect. I mean, that's with everything with like having a baby. You don't know what to expect until you go through it. But I really, really wanted to have a positive breastfeeding experience and a easy breastfeeding experience. And I also want to just disclaim right off the bat, but that not everyone's body is gonna be the same. I have talked to so many women, so many moms who've had such completely different breastfeeding experiences. Sometimes they don't have a problem breastfeeding or pumping, but they just don't want to do it anymore. It's just the mental load that's too much. Sometimes, you know, there's milk production problems, all these different factors. But I do want to say that God created our bodies. He made our bodies perfectly, and though there are some instances where maybe someone has a deficiency or just needs a little bit extra help, that is completely possible. But most of the time, you know, like milk should just come. Of course, like if you're not nourishing your body, if you're not drinking water, all these things that I want to talk about, if you're not doing those things, that's gonna aid to underproduction. But for the most part, your body should be able to produce milk, because that is how God created our bodies and what He created our bodies to do after having a baby. If you are really passionate about it, if you are really, really desiring and wanting to breastfeed or just have a milk supply in general, I really urge you to, one, pray about it, just give it to the Lord, and then also just stick to it. That is, like, if you get anything out of this video, it is to stick with it. It is challenging at first, as I will talk about in this video. It's really challenging. It's really mentally exhausting. It's painful. It's hard. But if that is something that you desire and that you really want, I think it could be done for you. I talked with my midwife. You know, she's had so many women who she's helped walk alongside their breastfeeding journeys, and she's walked through so many different scenarios and women who truly like can't produce milk, but they've been able to do it through different things, using different techniques and eating certain things, drinking certain things. So I really think if it is something that you really desire and want, you can do it. I've even talked with a mom who her nipples weren't even shaped like correctly. They were flat instead of like protruding out, and so she like really wanted to breastfeed, and she was still able to through the help of like a lactation consultant. And there's like little things that you can get to even help make your nipple more easy to feed off of for a baby, if that makes sense. So there's so many different things that you can do. But anyway, I just wanted to say that because there's so much stigma around breastfeeding. There's so much stigma around just feeding your baby in general. But for me, I really, really, really desired it. I really wanted it so badly. And so I just stuck with it. I really researched a lot before. I read a few books. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, but I still didn't feel confident. I just wanted a step-by-step guideline on like what to expect, and so that is why I make my videos, and that is what I hope to bring to you today, is to kind of just give you a very clear outline step-by-step of what you could expect on your breastfeeding journey. Not every body is the same, so this could be different for you, but this is my story. I can only tell my story and what I've experienced. So hopefully this will give you some sort of, guideline to go off of. I'm going to start from day 1 to day 7 and then kind of like jump to like 2 weeks breastfeeding and then jump to like where I'm at now to just kind of give you like a rough outline of the whole journey so far. Day 1, from the moment he was born, if you watched my last video, was like what to expect the first week postpartum C-section. The nurse, after I got wheeled back to the like recovery room, the nurse like immediately was like, do you want to breastfeed? And I was like, yes. So she helped me get him to latch, and as I said in that video, he immediately latched really, really well, which was such a blessing. And if your baby doesn't latch immediately, that can be a complication, and that can be something that's really hard. There's problems with tongue ties. A baby, when they come out of the womb, they don't know how to eat. Like, they have been in the womb being fed by the umbilical cord for 9 months. So I think we need to remember that as women, that like they are learning just like we are learning, and every baby is different as well. So like the next baby that I have might be a lot different than him, who knows. But it is also instinctual for them to eat and feed from the breast, but they will not latch perfectly every time. I will say that the best thing about being at the hospital is that I did have nurses to help me 24 hours a day, whereas my midwife, she is great. She helped me as well, but she, would have left like a couple hours after he was born. So I really wouldn't have had any help throughout the night. Also, like if your baby doesn't latch immediately, or if they have trouble latching, there are lactation consultants in the hospital as well, which is nice. There's also lactation consultants through, if you do a home birth or other birthing places, there's usually like someone to help you. Usually if a baby doesn't latch correctly, there's ways to fix it pretty easily. And even if it is like a tongue tie problem, it's a pretty easy fix as well, but you don't know if you don't try. But my experience is he latched very well for the first time, and he fed for like an hour. I don't really remember it that well that he fed that long, but he did. And which was great because, like I said in the previous video, it just was like very bonding. The fact that he like used me, for comfort right after, being born was just really sweet. It did not hurt the first time. The first time he latched, because that nurse helped me latch him correctly, it didn't really hurt. It was just the colostrum, which is just a thick, it's like a honey consistency. It's very thick, and that's what you have until your milk comes in. But that colostrum is the most potent, powerful stuff you can give to your baby. It coats their intestinal lining. It helps it prepare for digestion for milk. There's so many good bacteria, good like vitamins, minerals, like all that kind of stuff. I don't even know like the half of it, but the microbiome, like all this kind of stuff is just all in that colostrum. So it is so important for you to feed them that colostrum. Babies, like when they're first born, for the first like 24 hours are not honestly very hungry. They're really tired. So you'll hear like a baby will sleep for like 4 hours after they're born because they're just super tired from, you know, the labor and the birth. You know, that gives you a break with your boobs, but you also want to make sure that you're feeding them whenever they're awake. Whenever their eyes open, you want to feed them, because one, suckling triggers the prolactin, which produces the milk. And so if you are having them suckle, even if they're not like drinking, because they're not going to be drinking the colostrum really. I mean, they will be ingesting it, but it's more just the suckling effect is what triggers the prolactin hormone, and that makes your body produce the milk. So it's just really important to just, when they're awake, feed them. For the first day, it wasn't horrible because he wasn't eating a lot, and I was just excited. It was the first time I'd been waiting for this moment for him to be breastfeeding, and so I didn't immediately think that it was painful at all. It was more just exciting, but I did immediately start using nipple butter. So that was one thing that I saw and read, was that like just use it before things go bad, because things will go wrong with your nipples. Just trust me. So the sooner you start, the better. So just start it right on day one and you'll thank me later. Also, my midwife told me, and I've read this before, that you should not give the baby a pacifier for the first 2 weeks. And that is because there can be nipple confusion. So if you give the baby a pacifier, especially if it's a pacifier that's not breast-like, that can also cause problems with latching. I did not do that for the first 2 weeks. And plus the first 2 weeks, they're really not that fussy because they're sleeping so much. If they're being fed, if they're being changed, if they're being burped, and if they're sleeping, they're really not too bad. But after the 2 weeks, when things start moving and grooving and digestion's starting to get a little uncomfortable and they're starting to wake up more and stuff like that, that's when you can kind of introduce it. So I use a pacifier. I use this one. It's the Nini pacifier. So it looks very different from like your normal pacifier, but it's a breast-like pacifier. So he actually doesn't really love it. He uses it to just soothe, but he honestly does not use it that much. Like even to go to bed, he honestly doesn't really use it all the time. Day 2. So this is kind of day 2, day 3, honestly the whole week other than day 1. It just goes downhill. I'm not gonna lie. At least this is in my experience, but I've heard this is many people's experience. So your nipples start to get really sore. I mean, you are cluster feeding all throughout the night on day 1. And so by day 2, your nipples are starting to get super sore, especially because there's nothing coming out of them really. It's just the colostrum. So, you know, someone just like continually sucking on your nipple, like, ow. And like I said, they're just born and they can't latch properly every time. They're still trying to get used to it. So they're not gonna latch properly every time. And if it's 3 a.m. and you're absolutely exhausted, like honestly, sometimes I just didn't even correct it because I was so tired and there wasn't a nurse in the room, and I didn't really know how to like unlatch and relatch him the best. So I was like, well, if he's latched, whatever. So I don't really suggest doing that, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. So that caused bruising. Like I remember he bruised my right nipple because, you know, it's kind of like a hickey, but then it bruises. And then on the left side, it got really, I forget the term, but it started like bleeding a little bit. Anyway, they started getting super sore. I did ask for help a few times, and that is what I think is really important. If you are really wanting to breastfeed, ask for help when possible. Like, I wouldn't usually call a nurse in to come help me. I think maybe I did like one time, but if a nurse is in there, I would ask them to help me. I remember nurses would just say like, oh, you look like so natural with it, like you look like a pro. And that always made me feel really confident. I did have like 2 lactation consultants come in. The first one, I don't know, she didn't really do much, but the second one was really great. She really helped me. And she even like examined his mouth, made sure he didn't have a tongue tie, made sure like he was latching correctly. So that was really helpful. She kind of showed me some different positions to breastfeed in. My favorite one was just the cross cradle. It was just the easiest. That's the one that I mainly did. You really have to maneuver their head. You have to make sure they're open wide. You have to make sure, you know, you kind of like shove them on there. Like it's kind of crazy. I didn't realize to the extent of how like you literally have to like shove their face on it. I'm not gonna go into too much detail on like how to get a good latch. There's different videos and you can read different books and stuff like that. A latch is super important, obviously. The main thing I'm gonna say about how to latch correctly is you put the nipple to nose, and that is like, if you remember that, that's key. So when they smell your nipple, they smell you, and so they immediately usually open their mouth. And so once their mouth is wide open, you can put them onto the boob. But it's really a acrobat act. Like, you gotta use one hand to hold their head, you gotta use the other hand to hold your boob, and it's like a puzzle. Like, you gotta put the pieces together, and sometimes the pieces don't fit, and then it hurts. But yeah, I would suggest really like researching how to get a good latch, because I also can't really demonstrate for you. So day 2, using the nipple butter every time I fed him, which was like every 20 to 30 minutes, and using the silverettes. So I started using the silverettes on this day, and those are really, really beneficial. So I didn't really understand the purpose of silverettes, but what they do is they cover your nipples so that when you're wearing your bra, when you're wearing clothes, they protect your nipples. So like any slight feeling of like even fabric rubbing up against them, it really is painful and just uncomfortable. And so the silverettes are soothing because they're silver, so they're cold. And I've even heard like people put them in the fridge or in the freezer, and that really helps. So those are just key. You really want to get some of those because they will really help when you're not feeding to just feel comfortable. Day 3 through day 5, it gets really, really rough. They were trying to heal from getting, you know, bruised and bleeding, but he was still feeding. So I honestly was getting really nervous because I've heard like you don't want to like have them latch improperly because that can like damage your nipples. I'm like, I was always in the back of my head that I didn't want him to damage them. And so I was really nervous about that, but like, don't worry about that. Your nipples, like, unless they don't have a correct latch every single time and they're just sucking and like it's just so painful. No, that is bad. But if they are latching correctly for the most part, but it just really hurts, that's normal, and they will start to heal as long as they're latching correctly for the most part. But you just gotta push through. It's not fun to have something being sucked on while something's trying to heal, you know, but it's okay. You can still feed them with that going on. It's just really, it does not feel good. I resented every time he wanted to eat. Every time he was awake and he was crying or hungry, I just could cry. Like, I did not want to feed him, but I just told myself, like, this is my job. This is what I wanted. I know, like, this is what is most beneficial for us, for bonding and for his body, like, everything. I just gotta push through. But I mean, you're feeding him every hour, 2 hours, whenever he wants. Day 4, kind of the same thing. I was home from the hospital this whole day, so this is the first day fully home. I believe my boobs were starting to get bigger and fuller. The milk was starting to like get produced, but it wasn't coming out yet. So the thing is like, your milk doesn't just like automatically come and just start gushing out. It's like kind of like a gradual like process. Once it changes from colostrum to milk, there's like kind of that weird in between. So like you kind of have to like push out the colostrum basically At least in my experience, that's what happened. So day 4 was they were starting to get full, but they weren't, it wasn't like the milk wasn't coming out yet. It was still like colostrum, still very painful. Day 5 was by far probably the hardest day because of my milk came in. So I was like so nervous for my milk to come in. Like I was getting like hot and just nervous, and like I kept like thinking about it, and I just should have just, now that I've gone through it once, hopefully the next time it won't be as bad, but I was just really nervous about it. People have said they have had gotten fevers getting their milk in, they've had, you know, engorgement, like all this stuff, so I just needed to surrender it. But I don't really remember exactly like the timing, but I know like during the day my boobs were starting to get really engorged and full, but I didn't really understand. I thought it was more just like they were just sore from him suckling and stuff. But then I realized because they were so big, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's my milk. And so this day, it's really important when you start feeling your boobs get hard and get big, that's when your milk is coming in. So for me personally, I don't know if this is everyone's experience, but I really needed to pump it out because it was getting so engorged, and he was eating every 20 to 30 minutes. But the thing is that they were getting so engorged that he wasn't latching properly, and he wasn't getting enough because it was just too engorged. It's just hard, for a baby, it's hard to get a good latch when your boobs are so engorged. And so I didn't really realize that. He was really fussy that day because he was just kind of like getting some, but not a lot. It was just really hard for him. He was like, what is going on? The best thing to think about is heat equals milk flow, cold equals restriction. When you want your milk to flow, you want to use heat. And so for me, I remember on this day I took a shower. I remember after that, I think I was trying to pump and it was coming out. And so I was like, okay. So then I used these like round nipple like compress, hot compress, and those are the best. I highly recommend them. You put them in the microwave, heat them up, and then you put them on your boobs, and they help to get your milk to come out. So what I did on day, really it was mostly day 6. Every time before he would eat, I would get the hot compress, I heat it up, put it in my bra, like let it sit for like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, so it really like gets to, you know, get warm. And then I would express it with my hand pump. A hand pump is key. I will say, sorry, my dog is snoring again. The thing with a regular pump or like just, you know, a hands-free pump or whatever, you can't really massage, and massaging is also key. Heat plus massage is like what you want. With just pumping, sometimes the ducts like around your like armpit, under your boob, like they get clogged because, you know, right there it's like it gets pressed by your bra and stuff like that. And so you really want to massage that out. A pump usually is covering that area, and so you're not really getting like those ducts to kind of like get it worked out. And so with a hand pump though, you can really like use one hand to pump and use the other hand to like express. And so on day 6, that's what I did like all day, was just expressed all the milk. And I know there's like some videos I saw before I gave birth said to not do that because that will cause an overproduction. But for me, the way that my milk came in, it was just so much and it couldn't come out unless I pumped it out. He was not really like able to get it all to come out, and plus he was so used to not drinking that much because the colostrum was very little. And so, but there was a lot of milk in there, so I really, to just feel better and for him to latch better, needed it to come out. I would use ice packs, and those would really help with the soreness and to stop the milk flow. I literally would just fill up little like Ziploc bags with ice and put them in my bra. You could also freeze those little round hot compress things, but it takes a while for them to freeze. So ice was the easiest, quickest thing. So ice felt really good afterwards. So yeah, that was kind of my routine throughout the day. And finally by like the middle to end of day, on like the 6th day, the day after my milk came in, they felt so much better. They were not hard, they were soft. I remember like I could have cried of joy that they were finally like not like so rock hard. I was just like feeling so happy and like so proud of myself because I finally did it. And he was feeling a lot better too. Because again, babies don't drink a lot, you know, when they're first born, especially by day 6, they're not drinking all of that. I pumped like 6 ounces on both boobs. He's not drinking 6 ounces, he's drinking like 2. At least that's in my case. But I think the reason like I got such a good milk supply at first was because I was just letting him suckle all the time. And so that, you know, triggered my body to produce a lot of milk. And then also, like, I was drinking a lot of water. I was drinking a lot of electrolytes, and that is key as well. I'm sure you've heard that, but water, electrolytes is just key for milk production. Also, eating healthy. You can find so many different recipes. I never got, like, boxed, like, cookies or anything like that for, like, milk production. I just ate whole foods. Also, the Haka is really good. I used the Haka once my milk started, like, flowing, so around day like 7, 8, once I kind of got my boobs to not be as engorged, my letdown was super strong. So your letdown is like when your milk comes out. So whenever you pump or whenever they eat, that triggers a letdown. So that triggers like the milk to flow. And so when my milk first came in, both my boobs would just like shoot out milk. You know, if I didn't have anything on the other side, my other side would be just so wet. So I was using a Haka because, as I said, my boobs were still really engorged and it was still hard. Like, you know, there was no balance. It was just kind of like, it just kept coming because it doesn't know how much to make. So to use a Haka was nice because it would kind of give me some relief, especially because he would really only feed on one side. That would be enough for him. And so the other side wasn't getting, you know, any attention. So to use a Haka was nice. Sometimes I would have to pump, it just depends. And then the Silverettes and the cream, just continuing to use that every single day. And then day 7, pretty much just same thing. Like I said, this is just my experience, so hopefully you can get something out of it. All right, so I'm gonna kind of skip to like week 2. Once, you know, I kind of start getting the hang of things, once my milk, I kind of know like, okay, I need to express when it gets really engorged. You know, the heat was really helping. I got this massager, this heat massager thing, really helpful. It's a Mom Cozy heat massager. It was amazing because in the middle of the night, you know, I wasn't gonna get up to microwave those like compresses, but this massager, you press a button and it just heats up. And so you can use that and just kind of put it on there before they eat, just to kind of heat up the area. And then it has a massager too, so you can really massage those ducts. My midwife told me that don't put your bras too tight. Try not to wear any underwire at all. Usually breastfeeding bras don't have underwire, but try not to make it tight. Like I said, those areas around your armpit, that side boob area and underneath are usually what your ducts usually get clogged right there. I mean, even still now, my ducts get clogged there. So always massage that area. The thing is that you want to prevent is mastitis, which is an infection of clogged ducts, and you really don't want that. I've never had it, but I've been very diligent about always getting those ducts unclogged. That is really important. That is why I like swear by a hand pump, because like I said, with the electric pump, you can't really get that massaged out as well as with your hand or with like that massager that I was talking about. Every time I would pump, or every time I would, even sometimes when you feed them, you can do it, but you really want to make sure, like, it's crazy when you hand pump and you massage, you can just see the milk just coming out. It's actually really cool. Side note, I love breastfeeding. I think it is so cool. I think it is so amazing how God made our bodies to do it. So I've never been in a place where I've just resented it and like it's been like hard mentally. I'm just a slave to breastfeeding or anything like that. Like I've really enjoyed it. So I mean, obviously it was painful the first week, but even still now I really enjoy it. I still think it's amazing. And so that is also my mindset. I think mindset is key as well. Anyway, week 2, when the milk goes from colostrum to milk, their digestion system starts to kind of like work overtime. You know, it's different now. So, and also I've said this before, but their digestive system is the last to develop. If I would have known this previously, I would have started him on a probiotic immediately. But for future, I will always start my babies on probiotics immediately because they just need a little bit extra help in that area. So I have a couple that I suggest. Letdown was really strong. Like I said, he would overeat and throw up. And so that was really hard. It wasn't too bad. Like, he wouldn't be throwing up every time. It would just be once every 24 hours. It was really random, but it would like be in the middle of the night, and which was so hard. It was like a projectile vomit. At first, I thought it was a like lactose thing. I thought like I had to change my diet, so I did. But even when I changed my diet, it was still happening. And so I didn't feel my spirit that it was a allergy. I just felt like it was something with like just how much milk he was getting. And so it sorted itself out, and now he has no problems. I eat dairy a lot and he has no problem. That's just one thing. Like, my milk was just so strong. The letdown was just a lot for him. Like I said, I used the Haka on the other side to catch the milk. There's also these milk catchers that I started using as well. They're the Evie milk catchers, and those are super nice because you didn't have to suction them. You just put them right in your bra and it will catch the milk, so you're not suctioning to produce more milk, because technically a Haka is a form of breast pump because you get that suction effect. So it's nice once your milk is kind of established and coming in. Once it's already like come in and established a little bit, you don't want to be pumping and using the Haka too much. To use just the milk catchers was really nice. Just use the Haka if you're super engorged and full and you know they're probably not going to eat on the other side. Like I said, he usually is full with the first boob, but I would always offer the second just in case. But that is like usually what you want to do, is do one side, and then when they're done, offer the second after like a little bit of time. A big thing that you want to remember is that there's different types of milk. So you have hind milk and you have fore milk. The fore milk is the milk that comes in at the letdown, is like the first kind of milk that they drink. The hind milk is the milk, it's more, it's higher in fat, but it's more like a whole milk. Fore milk is like skim milk. Hind milk is whole milk. And so it's kind of like a dessert, like more fat. It's really important for their digestion and to be full and satiated. So the thing about, you really want to let them drain one boob and then offer the other, but you don't want to just go from like one to the other without having the other boob drained first. He's waking up. So I gotta make this quick, but remember that one boob has 2 different milks. It's really important that they get all of that. Also, don't rely on a schedule for feeding. You know, they say in the hospital like, oh, once your milk comes in, you can feed them every 2 hours. Don't go by that, because they'll be mad and hangry. Just whenever they're awake, whenever they're eating their hand or anything like that, just feed them. I would sometimes use the Haka in the middle of the night. I would sometimes use the milk catchers in the middle of the night. But as the weeks went on, my milk on the other side, like when I would have a letdown, wouldn't be as strong anymore. And so I would just use nursing pads. So nursing pads, make sure to use those all the time, because even if you're not feeding them, if you have a letdown, if your boobs are starting to get engorged, your boobs will leak. So nursing pads are really important for that. But by like a couple weeks after I kind of got the hang of things, I wouldn't use the Haka or the milk catchers anymore. But I would always make sure to have a nursing pads on, because then whenever I would have a letdown and he was eating the other side, I wouldn't be super wet. It would just catch it on that side. But you can still use a Haka or use the milk catchers if you want, but in the middle of the night, I don't want to do that. It's too much work. I still do that. I still use the nursing pads, because sometimes I'll still get some like extra milk on the other side, and I'm not about to like go get the Haka, and he kicks it off sometimes, and so it's just a lot. That's why I like the milk catchers, because you can't really kick them off because it's inside your bra. It's really like small. 3 months later, we have been breastfeeding for 3 months. I gave him a bottle a couple times. I really wanted him to like know how to drink a bottle so that other people could feed him. Jack, specifically my husband, could feed him. So we started doing that around like 1 month. and he was doing great with it. If you really want them to take a bottle, I would say be diligent in doing it like once a day. So for me, when I do give him a bottle, I usually pump that milk that I would give him. Now, I don't know how to use Silverettes anymore. I stopped using Silverettes about around 2 months, maybe a little bit. After a month, I stopped using the Silverettes. They just get calloused. They just get used to it. They're strong, tough. They don't hurt anymore. They don't hurt like in the shower. They don't hurt with like fabric or anything, so don't have to use those. My milk has pretty much been established at this point, so they don't get super engorged unless I don't feed for like 4 hours, 5 hours. Like now he's doing long stretches at night, so by 4 to 5 hours, I'm like full. You know, it's not inconsistent. They know how much to produce now. Being hydrated is key, as I said, so I still really need to be diligent about drinking water. When you first start nursing, you get so thirsty. Like, it's insane. The minute I sit down to feed him, I was like, I need water. I'm like in the Sahara Desert. I'm like, my mouth is so dry. Always having water or drinks like nearby when you're feeding is super crucial, but now that's kind of balanced out, so I really need to be diligent about drinking water. I try to drink a 30-ounce thing of like electrolytes every day, and then I try to drink like my whole 40 ounce of water jug, but I've been bad about that. But I always have like drinks accessible, and I'm always drinking stuff. And then eating healthy, eating like whole foods is really important. Sometimes like I'll have a dip in my supply, depends on like if I'm dehydrated, depends on like what I've been eating, so I can see that sometimes. And that, like, I've had a couple scares where I'm like, oh my gosh, my milk is like drying up, but it's really just because like there's probably something off. My like go-to is coconut water and electrolytes, and like the next day it's fine. So coconut water, electrolytes is like, always have that on hand. And he's eating every 2.5 to 3 hours. I still don't have him on like a strict schedule. Like, it's been less than 2.5 hours right now, but I'm probably gonna feed him now because he's awake and I don't want him to be screaming and crying. And he's growing too. Like, he's growing a lot now, so he needs more milk. He needs more ounces. And that's the thing with breastfeeding, is you don't know how many ounces they're really getting. I can kind of guess because when I pump, I will pump X amount. He's getting mad now. So I think I covered everything, hopefully. Thank you guys so much for watching. Gotta feed this guy. I will see you guys in my next video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. And yeah, love you guys. Bye.